If you've ever grown daylilies, you'll know that they're one of the easiest plants you're going to find. And they come in a huge range of colors and sizes and shapes, so daylilies are a great choice for any garden. Now, when most folks think of growing daylilies, they think of growing them outside, as a part of the perennial garden or just in the landscape, which is obviously a great place for daylilies. They do great outside in the sun. That's probably where they're happiest. But did you know that you can also grow daylilies in containers? And containers can be a great way if you maybe don't have space out in the yard, or you want to bring some daylilies in pots like up on the patio. But growing daylilies in containers isn't quite as easy as growing them out in the ground. There's some things you need to keep in mind. So that's what we're talking about in this video today, how to be successful growing daylilies in containers. So in this video, I'm going to talk about which varieties might work best for you in pots. And I'm going to talk about what to consider when you're selecting a pot. And then, as I mentioned before, growing daylilies in containers can be a little bit trickier than growing them out of the ground. So I'm going to talk about what you need to know, to make it work for you in containers. So as I mentioned, daylilies come in a huge range of colors, shapes, and sizes. And they also have different sized plants. It's just the way they grow. Some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. This is a variety Happy Returns. It's a small yellow flower, about a 2-inch, 2.5-inch bloom. Gets about 18 inches tall. And you can see, this is individual plants here. See how small those are? That's each individual daylily plant is called a fan. And so these just have smaller fans. It's just the way it is. This is the variety Chicago Apache, a nice, about 5-6 inch, nice bright red. And it's kind of in the middle here, but definitely, a lot bigger than the Happy Returns. And then this is the variety Heavenly Beginnings. And it's a nice big, 7-8 inches bloom. And you can tell, look, it's just a little bit bigger. So here's, this is what we ship. When we ship plants, we always make sure they have at least 3 fans. You see this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one's, I guess, what's it got, 5 on there. And then the Happy Returns, because they're smaller, this one has 6 or 8. But this is just the way daylilies come, different shapes and sizes, and so that's what, as a part of something you need to consider, when you're planting daylilies in pots. All right, so we talked about potentially choosing varieties with smaller blooms, might have smaller plants, and then the next thing to consider is what size pot to use. All right, so I've got 3 different size pots here. This one is about 12 inches in diameter. 13. This is probably about as small as you would want to go in potting a daylily. It looks plenty big, particularly put this Happy Returns in there like that. You think it's got plenty of room, but it's not going to take long for this to get crowded in there. This one is more like 16 inches in diameter. This is a good size. And then all the way up here, this one is, it's 22 inches. 22 inches in diameter. This would be a good size, if you wanted to put a larger flower daylily, this might be a good choice for that. Or you could put a smaller daylily, maybe 3 smaller daylilies, or a smaller daylily in the middle and put some additional, perennials or something trailing around it, or some annuals around it. That's an option if you got a bigger pot like this. Almost all the daylilies that we grow to sell are grown in the field. 99%, everything we ship is grown in the field. But we do grow a few potted daylilies to sell here at the garden. We have a daylily festival every summer, and so we have a few available for folks who come to that. So I wanted to show you what will happen to a daylily in a pot, over time. This is variety Webster's Pink Wonder, which happens to be one of our larger varieties. And this is a 2-gallon pot. It's been here a couple of years, but I'll show you what this is going to look like here. Alright, so you can see how these roots, this is pretty much root bound. So this is going to need to be popped out of this and put into a much larger container, or put in the ground really, for something this big. So this is why you can't use a small pot like this, because this is what you're going to end up with after just a couple years. So talking about the different sizes of daylilies, this was the variety Happy Returns I showed a second ago. And you see it's a smaller plant. Oftentimes daylilies with smaller blooms will have smaller plants like this. And so, because they have a smaller plant like this, oftentimes they're a better choice for a pot. They're just not going to get as big, so they will fit into a pot versus, a larger plant, like the Heavenly Beginnings here. This is going to be a bigger plant. It's just going to take more room. So, first thing to know about which varieties to choose is a lot of times the ones with smaller blooms are going to make a better choice for inside a pot. Coincidentally, talking about small daylilies, we did a video about that recently, so we'll put the link below. You might want to check that out, 5 great things about small daylilies. And then also below we'll put a link to our website, so make it easy for you if you want to find small flower daylilies or small daylilies on our website. That'll be below as well. Alright, so what potting soil do you want to use when you're potting up your daylilies? They're not going to be real particular. Pretty much anything that's just general garden use, garden perennials, is going to be fine. You don't need anything for cactus or anything like that. Daylilies will be just fine in a gentle potting soil. So one thing you want to know is how deep to plant your daylily. Okay, right here where the roots meet the top, this is about soil level. It's got kind of a wide area. This variety, happens to be pink, but right in this area here is going to be around, ground level. So that's about how deep you want to plant them. So they're not particularly deep. All right. So I'm just going to, put this here. I'm going to just shovel some potting soil around it. All right. I'm going to try and pack it down. Maybe hold it up a little bit while I'm packing it down so it doesn't sink too far. All right. So really, that's pretty much all you need to do to pot that up right there. So for fertilizer on potted daylilies, you're probably going to want to use a slow release fertilizer. With daylilies, typically a balanced fertilizer will be fine. So I've just got a balanced slow release fertilizer. You want to check the label, see what it recommends. We typically use a couple teaspoons or something per pot, and I'm just going to sprinkle it around the top like that. So you can get different different formulations that'll last different lengths of time for your daylilies. If you fertilize them in the spring, a nice six-month mix might be a good choice. But again, something just sort of balanced is what you're going to do, and check the label for the recommended rate. So the last thing I want to mention is that daylilies in containers require a little additional care, more than you would have to do daylilies outside in the garden. You're going to have to give your daylilies in containers more water than you would necessarily the ones out in the garden. Just because containers dry out so much faster than the ground typically does. So what that's going to mean is in the hot part of the summer, you're going to need to water your daylilies in containers every day. Now out in the yard, a couple times a week, probably going to be enough, but in containers every day. And then in the winter, if you live in an area that gets cold winters, you're going to have to give your daylilies in containers some winter protection, because they can definitely freeze. You got air circulating all the way around the outside of the pot. It can freeze the roots right through the pot. And so you have to give them some winter protection if you live in a cold area, or they can certainly die in pots. And what that might look like here at our garden, what few daylilies we pot up, we put in a cold frame. So we don't heat them, but they're protected under plastic. So you might want to put yours, inside a garage or a storage building, or if you have a cold frame, put them in that. And depending on how cold it is, you might, need to give them a little more protection than that. But you'll definitely want to give them some protection if you live in an area that gets cold winters. So, hopefully you might consider giving daylilies a try in containers if that works for you. Obviously, they're great out in the ground, but containers are another option. We have grown daylilies for over 40 years now, so we love to talk about daylilies. If you have any questions or comments, be sure and put them below. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can visit our website. All of our contact information is there. I mentioned a couple videos in this video. You might check out the one about 5 great things about small daylilies. And then hope you enjoyed our video.